Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I introduced myself to you last week. I'm the attorney who has the honor, privilege of representing Mr. Worthington. This is Brent Worthington. You met us last week when you were selected as jurors in this case. Co-counsel here is Mr. Neidig. He's representing Mrs. Worthington. Mr. and Mrs. Worthington are devoted, loving parents who would do anything for their children. I want you to know a few more things about my client, Brent Worthington. This man is 29 years old. He lives his entire life here in Oregon City. Brent Worthington is a painter. He works in a painting company with his father. Brent Worthington, Guy Worthington, his dad, they have a commercial painting company based here in Oregon City. He's a hardworking man, supports his family, a law-abiding citizen. The reason we're having this trial is Mr. Worthington, Mrs. Worthington absolutely deny that they caused the death of their child, Ava. Brent Worthington has a high school education. Like I said, he's 29 years old. Ava, his wife, 26 years old. Brent and Raylene Worthington have been married for 10 years, just about got their 10th anniversary. They and their families have lived in this community for 4 generations. Brent and Raylene Worthington, lifelong members of the followers of Christ Church here in Oregon City. Brent and Raylene Worthington have never been to a doctor, neither one of them. Brent and Raylene Worthington did not deny medical treatment to their daughter. They never felt that it was needed. Brent and Raylene Worthington lost their child last March in 2008. And I'm not saying that to appeal for your sympathy, although I know you all do sympathize. Obviously, it's heartbreaking to lose one's child. But they're here for the reason that the state of Oregon is prosecuting them as being criminally responsible for that. And as you've heard, Judge Mowers told you a couple times already that when a person enters a plea of not guilty, that's a denial of every material element of that allegation. Now, I want you to know some things about the community that Mr. and Mrs. Worthington live in. Of course, they live here in Clackamas County, like all of us. They're members of a very, very devoted congregation. And I don't know if any of you have a congregation like they do. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. You will find out in this trial about the nature of their congregation. You will find out that Brent and Raylene Worthington have, each of them, have a very large extended family. Their entire church lives within 5 miles of their entire church community lives within 5 miles of the church building. So their entire church lives either here in Oregon City or Gladstone, Milwaukee, the surrounding area, very close to where we are today. And unlike many of us, because they have such a large extended family and devoted congregation, these people respond in times of trouble. And Mr. Neidig and I, while you were being selected as jurors, we asked some of you if any of you are members of a large extended family, if any of you are members of a large and devoted congregation. And I don't know how many of you actually are, But I know that among the jurors that we asked, relatively few had that experience. What it means to the life of Brent Worthington and Raylene Worthington is that if somebody is in trouble in any way, if they're moving, if their house needs painting, if their car breaks down, if their child is ill, if they're in trouble of any kind, if they need a new roof on their house, they instantly, within hours at most, have dozens of people at hand, or maybe even more than that, to help them out, to help them through their trouble. Now, like I said, I don't know how many of you have that experience. It's certainly not something I'm acquainted with, but you will find out during this trial that Brent and Raylene Worthington live in an extraordinary and devoted congregation. And that's important. I'm not saying it's, that's something that you may never have heard of before. I think maybe some people, a family in the South, that might be a little bit more common in some parts of the country. It's, quite frankly, it's not common here in Oregon, where we often live in our own world, in our own family unit, and many of us don't even really react very much with even our neighbors or siblings who might reside 10 or 20 miles away. And that's it. And you might say, well, why does that matter? The reason it matters is that explains the devotion and the response of Brent and Raylene Worthington's community when word got around that their daughter was not feeling well.